I want to ask you about yesterday's testimony. Okay, so I know you can't talk about Stormy Daniels' testimony, but maybe you could comment on this. Judge Merchan said about the defense complaining about the testimony, he said, I agree. It would have been better if some of these things had been left unsaid. But they were already said in front of the jury.
Yeah, this is the problem here. And the judge did try and put guardrails with the prosecution and say that these are the guardrails. Let's just go back to basics here. This is about books and records keeping. This is about somebody in Trump Tower who registered a legal fee as a legal fee payment. Okay, that's it. A payment to Michael Cohen, who was an attorney, to reimburse him was a legal fee. That's what this case is about. Where was President Trump? In the White House. And they're trying to now make this a very salacious, it's a complete extortion situation. And they're using their hand for the Biden administration to, number one, slow him down so that he can't go on the campaign trail. Number two, get headlines that they think will damage him. And it's just very clear. And the judge was trying to prevent that. But I can tell you, I just thought the prosecution completely disregarded the guardrails, didn't care. And that's why we moved for a mistrial yesterday.
And I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We talked to Turley last hour about the possibility for that under this judge's jurisdiction, let's say. And Turley said yesterday on the 5, he said, you can't teach a cat to walk backwards, which is a great line. But what the judge said is that I will give the jurors a limiting instruction or a limiting charge, which tells them, hey, you can't consider what was said by said witness at certain point. In trial, we're not talking about just any trial here. Yeah. Talking about a president. How effective can the limiting instructions be for jurors?
I think they're useless. I think they're completely useless, I'll be honest with you. I think it's a Band-Aid, but you can't fake that the injury was already done. You can't unring the bell. We're human beings. If somebody tells you, pretend I didn't just say that, okay, you're not going to... There's no wipeout eraser in your mind that says, okay, I now have unheard that. And no limiting instruction will say, we know you heard X, Y, Z, but we don't want you to think about that when you're back there. You're going to follow these orders. Look, we have to be realistic about human nature. And I do think this is a part of our justice system that needs to be tweaked. Some things are antiquated, and this is one of those things. There needs to be a remedy when people disregard the parameters.
But the judge blamed you.
Well, not me, but I'm not on the case.
The judge blamed Trump's attorneys.
Well, let's remember what happened there. The judge said in the courtroom that these are the parameters. They had many sidebars that I can't speak to where they discussed those parameters. They thought the judge would enforce those parameters, said to control it. So they step back because when you're in front of a judge in general, let me just be clear, you have to do a dance. You cannot be inappropriate. You don't want to upset the judge, and you're trying to do your job and be an advocate. It doesn't mean you constantly scream, yell, and punch.
Because he'd already said stop doing that.
That's right. And then he comes out and says, whoop. Hey, guess what? You should have objected more. Well, what are you to do in that scenario, right? And then we did make objections. And many of them, as we've seen in courtroom time after time again, are completely overruled. They're not sustained. Look, this is an art. It's not a science. When you're in a courtroom, no matter what the reporters are saying, you have to understand that as an attorney, it's a craft. You have to sit there, you have to listen, you have to read the room, you have to read the judge and the jury. If you constantly object and a judge is constantly saying you're overruled, how does that make you look to a jury? Right. There is a dance that you have to do, and you have to look at everything. So that was a little bit of an unfair assumption, if you ask me.
I'm sorry. Back in court tomorrow, are you there?
I will be there.
Okay.